I'm privileged to be given this opportunity, and as you'll see, I've worked closely with Murray in a few different guises, I suppose, through our combined professional lives. So, Mr. P, Muzz, Muzzer, MVP, Muzzmond, even a Star Wars character by some brave person. If nicknames were if the number of nicknames was a measure of the degree of fondness, you'd be right up there. So look, people have already opined better than I have. I can and will in regards to your professional life and your many achievements. What I can offer, I think, is something unique that no one else can, and that is I've been a medical colleague, I've been your doctor, I've been your patient, I've been your photographer. Good luck, buckle up, mother. You know my image library, don't you? So this is the first one. This is just a sort of play around with photographic composites with concepts. So look, there's a typical view of Muzzer really filling some area of light with his prolific frame, so that's the first offering I have for you tonight. So I'm going to work through basically in my talk those 4 hats that I've worn in my journey with Muzzer, Mr. P, Muzzmond. So I came to Invercargill, I came to New Zealand, and I came to Kew in 1994. And I actually worked as a medical registrar and then went into anaesthesia in 1995. And that's where I really came across Muzzer, not really much as a medical registrar. And I'll just share a couple of sort of memories, if you like. His lists were always the big lists. They were the triple A's. They were on a Monday. I think Robert used to do them. So we used to come in the night before and put epidurals in those days for aneurysms. And then the big day was the following day. And as people have already mentioned before, things would start off fairly lightly. His theatre was full of sort of stories, conversations, banter. Even in those days, he used to like to sort of get a bit of a needle out of, poke the bear, if you like. And you could do that up to a certain point, and the first point you got to be careful was when you got the shit. And then when the cross clamp came off and something wasn't got right, you get a shit and derision, and you knew to keep quiet. But anyway, the nurses used to have the swab count, and there was a separate column S&Ds, and I don't think it took you a while to cotton on to what it was all about for a start. Moving on, I remember another weekend on call, and how does this happen? But a patient apparently sat down on a teacup. You remember that? Sat down on a teacup, just happened to be wandering around with nothing on and sat down on a teacup. So Murray had to rescue him. And the receiving nurse said, "Excuse me, but clear a way through." We need to clear a way through. So anyway, Muzzer, I think the guy got an ostomy, and the teacup was retrieved, and that was that. Murray thought that was the end of it until the Monday morning. We used to stop sort of, in those days you'd get sandwiches and morning tea. We stopped for morning tea, and Murray got his tea served up beautifully. If you've lost the teacup, I've got a replacement. So moving on, eventually I qualified and became a consultant, and I moved here in 2005 and worked as a specialist. And specific incidents are hard to remember, but I think I'd summarise my time with Murray as you occasionally butt heads over this and that, over resources, but by and large his lists were a fun time really. As Paul sort of alluded to, his ability to communicate and his bedside manner, and it's just each patient that would come across, it's cliche, but they were a person, and he would connect with them in some way. And the same thing would happen in the theatre environment, and he was always up for a story, always up for a joke, and so we used to take great delight in pulling each other's legs, really. Particularly over rugby, and particularly over international rugby, so I quite enjoyed myself in 2003. And again, I think in 2009. And, you get to the quarterfinals and something would happen. France would appear and suddenly Murray would go off the rugby. But look, I mean, we've worked together I've worked in public and in private, and certainly in the public sector, we've done a lot of difficult cases together. And, I've described him as the McDaddy. But really, if there's a neck that needs to be explored, or there's a difficult vascular case, or any difficult case, then you are the go-to person. That those shoes are going to be hard to fill. Do you remember the Cato coin? We won't mention that. Judith can do that. Anyway, moving on to private practice. So I started working with Murray in private practice. It was supposed to be Tuesday afternoons. I don't know what afternoon what sort of world he lives in where it's an afternoon, but Mother would roll in, and the list would grind its way on, and we'd finish with veins, and sometimes it would finish the same day, and sometimes it finished the next day. So that's where I grew grey hairs and a bit of a belly, and I'm hoping that someone's going to give him a watch as a retirement present. Anyway, so there we go. We move, as I said, the four things. There was patient, colleague, patient, and doctor. So I found myself almost his doctor one day. I should scroll just through some of these slides. So Murray turned up to work. Surgeons, they don't like going off sick. He staggered to work this day, and he's coughing his guts up. Do you remember, girls? Cough, cough, cough. And for some reason I had a camera there. And he had this terrible cough, and it would just come, you could see stuff flying into his face. And there's one picture that Murray doesn't want me to find. Now, I'll come back to that. Lucky for you, Mother. I couldn't. But I found this one instead. He's not the gentleman you think he is. He's got a few words in his lexicon that aren't words. So, anyway, the plot thickens, because the next day he was on intensive care. You remember? And I was on call. And I'm thinking, oh, please don't get worse. I don't have to intubate you. So anyway, fortunately he got better. I think he might have been back at work the next week. So, 2016, I found myself with a bit of, just off. And I had a bit of a sore tummy, but I was just a bit off. Apparently I had man flu. Anyway, it didn't get better, and I went to the doctors. And long story short, I ended up at Kew. I had appendicitis. And who should be on call? So I remember lying there thinking, oh, you have an operation. What's it like to have an operation? And thought I'd be nervous, wasn't nervous. You go through, and then they're all waiting around. Well, what are we waiting for? Murray hasn't signed the consent form. So he comes in there and he goes, well, you're here, aren't you? We better get on with it. And then afterwards he had the gauze to tell me there's a bit of more adiposity than he expected to find inside. Right, finally, photographer. Well, I guess we've sort of covered most of that, really. But I have had the pleasure to photograph Murray in a few ways, and I'll see what we got. I think that captures you most, doesn't it? Really. He came round to my garage. I've set up a studio. I've sort of got this little project. If anyone wants their photo taken, come to me. But that's you, Muzz. Up for a joke, a big laugh, and still with your jacket on. So to wrap up, because I've gone on long enough. look, as people have said, you're a man who devoted his life to the service of the Southland community and to your family. They say that a person is judged by their children and their family. So well done, Jan. And he loves medicine in the old-fashioned sense, and he loves people, and he loves their lives. What I've forgot to mention, if you're in the theatre, he'll pick up on something that was going on with your life a week or two ago. That ability to remember those things, I suppose, is what. Yeah. I used to joke that he was a celebrity, and the McDaddy, but really he is. Not only in medicine, but figuratively, he's a colossus, and his achievements, as have been outlined by others, are considerable. If this was Maoridom, we would say that he has mana, a person of character and true achievement. And Murray, I think that sums it up really. You are a man of mana, and so I salute you. It's been a pleasure to work with you. I'll miss you, really. You might have been a pain in the arse at times. We might have butt heads, but I'll miss you. So finally, if I can quote from the Bible as well, and then that's it. So, for I know the plans I have for you. They are plans for good and not for disaster, to give you a future and hope. I know you've dragged your damn retirement out, but this is a new chapter and it's exciting. I'm sure you'll have a great time. All the best.
Thanks for that, Roger. I must be very wary of ABC with a camera. Josie Parker.
My name is Josie Parker, and I'm completely terrified of podiums because I'm so scared that no one will see me over the top. Are we okay? Yeah. But anyway, I'm a consultant radiologist, and I am clinical director of the medical imaging department. I'm all that. But 35 years ago, I was nothing. I was a junior doctor. And my job today is to thank you on behalf of all the junior doctors that you helped all the way now. You were my very first consultant. I met you on my very first day as a doctor. It was 1986. I had a bad perm. I looked 12. I was a nervous wreck. Then I met you and you were so kind to me. You were so kind to me. We got on great. You were laughing at my jokes, and I literally thought that I was going to be a surgical trainee. I felt that my way into the surgical training scheme was right there. It was within my grasp. I felt that things were looking great, but then theatre happened. Everything fell apart. Somebody pointed out to me that we were height incompatible. I spent 3 months retracting on a stool on the tip of my toes, and I have never seen a gallbladder yet. As junior doctors in the hospital at that time, we all loved you. We made jokes about you. We called you nicknames. We called you Murray in a hurry, Mr. Pfeifer with the knife. We even actually wrote a song. we wrote several things about you. The song went something like, Mr. Pfeifer knows what's what. If you've got a runny bot, he is great, he's such a dag, you'll even get a plastic bag. We loved you so much, even though punctuality was not one of your virtues. But the thing was, you had such a booming laugh that we could tell within 50 metres that you were about to arrive. So we knew to look sharp, we knew to look busy. And I think we got away with it. In those days, as junior doctors in Kew Hospital, we gave all of our consultants clinical grades. Histological grades. So, benign, malignant, DCIS. Murray, you were always benign. In fact, you even had your own subtype, which was benign with no potential for malignant change. Anyway, it was a dark and stormy night, and after a couple of little drinks, some of the doctors and I decided that what we needed to do was to do a raid on the old hospital. It was about to be demolished, and this was probably one of the things that the DHB definitely did not censor or approve of. Nigel, please don't find me if you've ever reading this. And so what we did was we snuck in under cover of darkness. We had complete surgical guards. We're talking mask, hats, everything. No one would have known who we were. I did not work alone. I have a colleague who wishes to remain nameless, mostly because he felt that it might negatively influence any potential employment with DHB. But there were memories there to be stolen. We stole a few. We had a laugh. It was awesome. And one of the things that we stole was the gift that you've got now. And I just want you to open it. Oh my goodness. He's got a switch in his pocket. Seriously, Murray, on behalf of all the junior doctors, there'd be hundreds of thousands of us. Guess I didn't make the cut about being a surgeon, because I'm a lowly old radiologist. But you helped all of us. You've influenced so many people. You've motivated us, you've inspired us, you've supported us. And we can't thank you enough. Thank you.
Have you missed out something raiding the old hospital? I think it's all down at A1 demolition still in some back room. I was in Dunedin today and my boss, Nigel, who's not here so he won't have heard that story or will hear it, gave me a message to read out for tonight. Murray, I regret that I am unable to join you for tonight's celebration of your life and achievements as a key person in the Southland health community. Southland Hospital will not be the same without you, but you can be sure that many people here tonight are committed to carry on with the great tradition of excellent service to the Invercargill and Southland community. Thank you for all you have achieved for so many, very many patients. One can only guess how many emergency laparotomies you have performed, but I gave up trying to calculate. It must run into the thousands. In addition to the direct patient care, you have been an undoubted leader in Southland and helped establish a great ethos and hospital team. You can take pride in the way the local people have faith in their hospital and its professional staff. Leadership is a tough role at which you have succeeded extraordinarily. You can be assured that through the foundations which you have helped build, that the excellent care of the Southern team will continue on. The charity hospital will also serve the people of Southern well. Whilst we would wish that such things are not necessary, I have little doubt that you have started something important that will grow and become a great institution. I wish you all the best for your retirement and thank you again on behalf of all the medical staff in Southern DHB and most importantly on behalf of the people of Southland, Nigel Miller. And Chris Fleming sends his apologies that he was unable to attend tonight and wishes you all the best for your retirement as well. Right, Ian Shaw.
Hi, I'm one of the paediatricians. I went to medical school in a town far, far north of Dunedin. The surgeons that I worked with were surgeons. I didn't quite click with them. I came to Invercargill, did my medicine runs, then I got sent to Gore, where Murray was working. And there was a bit of trepidation. And then I realised this guy was different from probably any other surgeon I'd met. He was really nice. He was polite to people, including first-year house officers, and just great to work with. That was my third run. For the fourth quarter, I was back in queue, and Murray had moved there, and I was his first house surgeon, I believe, in queue. The registrar was Dick Bunton, so the ward rounds were assisting in theatre was also difficult. Two giant men and this tiny little figure trying to retract. By gum, you could work though. I made up your lists. You know, he had lists for a morning. I remember 2 majors and 7 minors. Major might be hemicolectomy. There was one time you did a hemicolectomy. You'd been up operating all night. I think you'd gone home for breakfast, came back, and from the time you draped this lady to when you finally did the stitch, it was 45 minutes, hemicolectomy done. She was elderly. She recovered perfectly because I did all the yards on the shop floor. I saw these people recovering. Next to no pain, walked out the door 5 days later. But by gum, your lists were long. I came back in the early 1990s as a paediatrician and had occasion to work with Murray again from time to time. I remember you coming in to see a child I was worried about in the middle of the night. Still the same nice, polite, reassuring guy. It was great to have you there. I do want to particularly mention Portacaths. He was great with Portacaths. We had a run where we used Portacaths for oncology patients, for cystic fibrosis patients, kids where you can't get easy access. And we had a run where the ones that came back from St Elsewhere, they just failed. Murray's never failed. They always worked. They lasted at least 5 years. There was one particular brand that the kids liked, which went in here because having a lump of metal under your skin here made playing rugby hard for some of the guys. And a lot of the kids wanted the ports here. And again, Murray just said, yeah, I'll put it in. And they all lasted yonks and yonks. I think 8 years might have been the longest one went. I found out that Starship no longer do them, no longer recommend them because they didn't work, didn't last. They didn't have Murray. So I salute you. I thank you. You couldn't get me into surgery because I've got 10 thumbs. But I have tremendous respect for you, and I thank you for being such a decent boss.
Thanks for that, Ian. Deborah, would you like to come up?
On behalf of Fountain of Peace New Zealand and Uganda, we wish you a very happy and enjoyable retirement, Murray. After working in the same hospital as you, Murray, for 29 years, it wasn't until you and Jan and I and 6 other people travelled to the other side of the world that we really got to know each other and form a wonderful friendship that has been since led to many times around the dinner table laughing and talking and having a lot of fun. I've got a few words from one of the team members, Mama Jane. Murray, you have touched thousands of lives with your care, compassion, surgery and support via your service at Southland Hospital, and you have also touched lives in a very impoverished village in rural western Uganda, where the work of Fountain of Peace is conducted. As a result of travelling to Uganda in May 2019 with Fountain of Peace and spending some days at a local government hospital there, you ignited a dream, ignited a possibility for our organisation to be able to meet the surgical needs of many in this community. The plan was for a small surgical team from New Zealand to work in partnership with this local Ugandan hospital and offer free elective day surgery over a 3-week period, minor surgery, but yet life-changing surgery. Sadly, COVID put a halt to this dream, to be fulfilled this year and even next. But we believe that when a surgical team finally gets to travel, it will be because of your heart to make a difference, Murray. That dream may now not see you in your scrubs with scalpel in hand, but you will play a major part in the team here in New Zealand and in Uganda. Oh, and for the trip, that there should be no need for you to closely inspect any of the ditches in the village. More on that later. Murray, may you be blessed with a long and enjoyable retirement, and may this next chapter of your life bring you endless opportunities to do the things you love with the lovely Jan at your side. You and Jan make a great team, and we at Fountain of Peace New Zealand are extremely grateful for your support and encouragement. Thank you. Jane Laurie, Executive Director of Fountain of Peace New Zealand. And some words from Uganda. Dear Murray, Fountain of Peace Uganda has learnt of your retirement from active service. We join with the team of Southland Hospital and indeed the entire New Zealand to celebrate your commitment and love for service beyond self. Through your selfless dedication and extraordinary humility, you orchestrated a forever bridge of working friendship between Chinjojo General Hospital and Fountain of Peace. I'm tempted to believe that this bridge stretches right into Invercargill. The people of Chinjojo will forever be proud of you. Here in our local community, you are remembered as the Mzungu, that's white man, who wallowed in the deep of mud so that the locals can have access to safe and clean water. What a humbling sacrifice. If you want to know more on that episode, just ask Murray. I unfortunately was not at that scene when it happened. I just got to see him drive past in the van later, covered in mud from head to toe to go and have a shower. But ask him about it. To the staff of Chinjojo General Hospital, you are the teaching consultant they would wish to learn from again and again. Jan, my flamboyant president, thank you for supporting Murray all the way. I know you are the great winner in all this, as you opposed to have more time together without worrying of the phone going off with emergency calls. You are now retired, but the Murray I know is not tired yet. So prepare your kit for I will personally be waiting to warmly receive you at Entebbe Airport as soon as Jan allows. We got work to do here, remember. He maha na manaki, many blessings, William Ruharusa. Murray and Jan, I just wanted to say, Roger, by the way, you've never been his girlfriend. So I've been very proud to be Murray's girlfriend, but it comes with a proviso that Jan is in full knowledge of it all, and it only ever involves big hugs. Murray and Jan, I love you very much.
Now, hopefully that's everybody who said they wanted to say something, but we will open the floor up just a little bit for anybody who's got something they'd love to say. I'll bring the mic to you.
All right, so my name is Jim Faraday. I'm a gynecologist, and we don't usually try to interface too much with the general surgeons. So I want to say a couple things. I've been overwhelmed with the speeches. Paul and Josie, everybody's just been exceptional. So I want to say a couple things that we have to look at. One is that we're always asked to look at the data. And so one of the things that you think about in data is Murray's operated in all these thousands of people and saved lives, except Invercargill's got a very static population. So I then started thinking about the S&D, the shit and derision thing. And so one time I've only operated once with Murray. It was in the middle of the night. It was a big horrendous thing, and sweat, and Murray's there, and if I've called Murray, it's not very good, and I'm chipping away and chipping away and chipping away, and I'm there, and I'm saying, oh, God, I don't know, Murray, I don't know, And I said, I think that's the ureter, and he said, no, it can't be the ureter. I'm like, I think that's the ureter. He goes, Jim, fortune favors the brave. So knowing that he's an icon, right? I'm like, he goes, yep, that's the ureter. Can I just say that didn't even get shit and derision. And then he goes like this, he steps away with the gown and says, hey, I'll call Mike. So in all seriousness, and that is a true story, I just want to say that we have legacies all the time, and our legacy is our family. So you think about how many family dinners, how many hockey games, how many basketball games, how many anniversaries that you missed. And that's the reality that all of us give. So thank you very much to his family. And the legacy that we have is who we train and who we teach and the passion that we imbibe. And so I think you've done really well. So I don't know you very well, and only for 10 years, but you are somebody that I really look up to. So thank you very much.
Claudia Schneider.
Good evening, I'm Claudia Schneider. For those who don't know me, I'm one of the anaesthetists. I arrived here on the 14th of December 1988 from Germany to take up a senior house officer job in the anaesthetic department. My English wasn't really up to standard, but in those days you didn't have to talk much. You were only doing anaesthetic, so I did the patients questions. One day I was doing Mr. Pfeiffer's list with the consultant, obviously. I don't know who the consultant was. And something or somebody prompted me to say, bloody hell. And Mr. Pfeiffer looked up and said, who taught her that?
Well, I hadn't actually planned to say anything tonight, but I'm Murray's daughter, Dale, and I'm here from the States, and I just can't tell you how proud I am of my dad and how touching it is to hear all the stories. And, you know, he is truly a man with a huge heart and so much kindness, you know, and he's just, you know, with my mum, the absolute power of strength and humility and just inspiration for our family as well. And you know, but it's really interesting to hear, you know, all these stories about Dad at work, because, you know, Murray, the father, was like a slightly different character. And I always used to remember, like, you know, he would come home from work and, you know, he's such a gracious guy, but, you know, from going and being like, you know, total control, you know, at work and, you know, the man and walking around the woods, so these little kids are running around and everything. And, you know, he was a fantastic dad. But, you know, all of a sudden, you know, you'd bring something up and it would invoke this 30-minute explanation of the way that the world was and how we should be thinking about something, and like particularly to the next level. And you know, it used to. I still remember the time that I, you know, had my first boyfriend, and you know, it was at the time, the days when the phone line was piped into the wall, so there was no, you know, cell phones or whatever. And I would just like to get on the phone and talk to him at night. And Dad was always like, Dale, you know, get off the phone, you know, I'm on call. And I'd be, you know, they're not going to, you know, it'll be fine, I'll just talk for, you know, another half an hour. I'm on call, Dale, I'm on call. And sometimes he'd come and find me and I'd be lying by the side of the bed on the second phone, like talking to my boyfriend. And that was all fine and well until one day there was a knock at the door. I'd been on the phone for about an hour and a half, and the police came around and said, Mr. Pfeifer, you're needed at the hospital. But there's been a lot of, you know, Chin and derision was also occasionally a word that were added at our home, but you know, I remember this one time actually when we were quite young. I was probably about 6 or 7, and we used to occasionally go on these family camping trips. And Dad would pack the car with surgical precision, and we're barreling along State Highway 1, and all of a sudden we got a flat tire, and Dad was like, oh my God, we pulled over to the side of the road, and there was a new swear word created that day. So I just let everybody know the penultimate Murray Pfeifer swear word is bloody O'Reilly. But truly we, you know, I know that I speak on behalf of John, Megan and John and Rumi and all the grandkids, and you know, we are so proud of you, and we are so humbled and honoured to call you our dad and our granddad, and you know, we're just, you know, so blessed to be, for you to be my dad. And we're all so blessed to have you. So thank you for everything you give us on a daily basis.
Thanks for that, Dale. Can I see another hand over?
I can't really compete with that. I worked for Murray in '88. I came down here as a registrar, and I'm Frank, so I'm a surgeon in Christchurch now. But I remember the very first ward round I did with Murray. About the very first patient I saw was my mother-in-law. She wasn't my mother-in-law at that time, but she was soon after. But I think the only thing I can, probably the gift that Murray probably doesn't realise that he gave me was the contact with patients he has, the ability just to talk to people as humans and take them at whatever level. And we've had that repeated many times this evening. And I think that's a real gift that Murray has, just dealing with people as they are. But I did pull one thing over on Murray. He saw this dog I had and he said, what is that deformed poodle? I said, Murray, that's a retriever. That's a curly-coated retriever. And Murray then got a curly-coated retriever, which you probably remember. Abby? Yeah. But what he didn't realise that we probably didn't have a deformed curly-coated retriever. Our one was quite short. You got the normal size one.
Thanks for that, Fred. Right, how's our time going? Anybody Anybody got a burning message they'd like to say, or should we hand the floor over to the retiree himself? Oh, we're going to put you on last. Yeah, so pace yourself there, Dave. Come on up, Murray.